Today, we are on the hunt for a kingdom that literally disappeared. I mean, this was a major world power for almost 200 years, and then, poof, it was gone. So completely gone that for 5 whole centuries, people thought it was just a myth. This is the story of how it was found. It's a wild question, right? How does that even happen? We're not talking about a little village here. This was a powerful empire. They had their own unique language, a super vibrant culture, kings, the whole shebang. And it all just got wiped off the map. 500 years. For half a millennium, the Kingdom of Xia was basically a ghost story. That's just an incredible amount of time for a civilization to be lost. It was reduced to nothing more than a whisper, a rumor. It was almost completely forgotten. So, what we're going to do is follow the clues, just like detectives. We're going to meet the people who cracked the case and piece together this incredible puzzle of how a forgotten empire was brought back into the light. All right, let's start our investigation. First things first, who exactly were these people? What do we even know about the Kingdom of Xia? Okay, so the Kingdom of Xia, also known as Western Xia or Shexia, was founded by a people called the Dangzhang, and for almost 200 years, from 1038 to 1227, they were a serious power in the region, right alongside China's famous Song dynasty. And then, in 1227, it all came crashing down, and the long silence began. For centuries, there was pretty much nothing. Crickets. But there was one single tantalizing clue left behind by a very, very famous traveler. Just look at this timeline for a second. The kingdom falls in 1227. About 50 years later, Marco Polo wanders through the area, and then a huge, gaping silence. Nothing significant happens until 1804. That is a massive gap in the historical record. And this was it. This was the one breadcrumb left for future historians. Marco Polo passes through and notes that the Mongolians called this place Tangut. He saw a land that had clearly been devastated by war, mentioned some cool white camel fur, but that's all he got. Can you imagine? The only evidence of an empire that lasted 189 years was a single name in a travel journal. It's about as close to a perfect historical erasure as you can get. But that 500-year silence was finally broken, and not by some huge team of archaeologists, but by one single, incredibly curious historian. So let's meet our first historical detective. His name is Zhang Xu. It's 1804, and he's a young scholar working in Liangzhou, the exact same area Marco Polo had described centuries before. And he stumbles onto something really weird. He's at a local temple and finds this gazebo that's been totally bricked up, sealed shut. The local people warned him, hey, don't open that, it's cursed. But, Zhang Xu was a historian. Curiosity is kind of in the job description. So what's inside? Is it really some ancient, deadly curse? Or could it be something way, way more important? He had the wall torn down, and inside, no curse. Just a stone tablet. But this tablet was the first huge breakthrough. One side had Chinese characters he could read, no problem. But the other side, it was covered in a script that nobody had ever seen before. A completely lost language. Now, Zhang Xu was a smart guy. He couldn't read the mystery script, but he found a golden nugget in the Chinese text, an era name, Tianyou Minen. And this was the key. He raced back to the official Han Chinese historical records, and this name just wasn't there. It didn't belong to any known Chinese emperor. And here's where he has his big aha moment. He starts digging deeper and finds this obscure little passage in the Songshi, the official history of the Song dynasty. It mentions a kingdom to the west called Xixia. And, get this, it says their 4th king used the era name Tianyou Minen. Boom, it all clicked into place. The Xixia from the Chinese records and the Tangut from Marco Polo's diary, they were the same forgotten kingdom. So, Zhang Xu gave the ghost of a kingdom its name back. He proved it was real, but it would take another 100 years and one very determined Russian explorer to actually find its body. Okay, fast forward to 1908. We've got this Russian explorer, Pyotr Kozlov, and he's on a mission. He wants to find Karakodo, this legendary lost city out in the desert that's rumored to be full of treasure. 4 other expeditions had already tried, and they all failed. But Kozlov was different. He was a master of, let's call it, social exploration. He knew that to succeed out here, it wasn't about force. It was about respect. He totally won over the local ruler, Prince Daxi, with some really thoughtful gifts. And in return, the prince gave him the best guide in the whole territory. And it worked. He found Karakoto, this incredible city half swallowed by sand. And inside a tower, he found a treasure trove that was way better than gold. We're talking thousands of books and manuscripts in that same lost script. And among them, the jackpot, a Mandarin to Shisha dictionary. This was the Rosetta Stone that finally let scholars read the language of the Lost Kingdom. So the language was cracked, a lost city was found, but there was still one huge piece of the puzzle missing, the very heart of the empire, the tombs of its kings. This last chapter brings us right into the modern era. In 1937, a pilot flying overhead spots these weird, pyramid-like mounds. Decades go by, then in 1972, Chinese archaeologists finally go to investigate. They find stone tablets with those NingXia characters on them. Mystery solved. These mounds were the royal tombs of the Xia kings. The full picture was finally complete. What an incredible journey, right? From a single name in a diary to a whole rediscovered kingdom with its own language, cities, and tombs. The story of the Xia is just this amazing reminder that history isn't always written down neatly in books. Sometimes you have to literally dig it out of the sand. And it makes you wonder, what other lost worlds are still out there, just waiting for someone to find that first clue?